Everyone enjoys a good rags to riches story, and there are plenty in the world of football. These players have gone from absolute poverty to becoming millionaires, so they know what it takes to reach the top. Stay tuned to see some of the most inspiring stories about soccer players we know and love and how they were able to pull themselves out of their hardship. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. First, we have Victor Moses. Victor Moses' biography could one day be made into a heart-wrenching feature film. After the Chelsea man was forced to seek shelter in London as an 11-year-old after both of his parents were murdered in war-torn Nigeria, the winger was placed into a foster home in South London after growing up in extreme poverty and playing football barefoot. He would later join Crystal Palace's academy, which then followed into professional football. If he continues to add to the Blues' strong form, Moses is on his way to becoming a Premier League winner. Next is Prev Mary. Prev Mary was born in Posiciuomo, a well-known French city known for its slums and chaos. He grew up being raised in the city's poorest neighborhood, and when he was 2 years old, his family was devastated by tragedy. Prev Mary survived, but he had 100 stitches on his face, leaving 2 long scars. Prev Mary and his father worked as masons in exchange for daily meals for the family in 2003. When Prev Mary and his family grabbed the attention of the Mest Club, their lives were flipped completely. Prev Mary later moved to Turkey to play with the Galatasaray. After being recruited in France, he returned to the United States to play for the Marseille club before joining the Bayamonic. Prev Mary, like many of his slum friends, would most likely join the unemployed army if it weren't for his career in professional soccer. A truly inspiring story, to say the least. Next up on our list is Collins Johns. Despite the fact that Johns' tenure at Fulham in the Premier League is undoubtedly his most famous claim to fame, the story of the one-time Dutch international's background is nonetheless inspiring. John's father was killed in the Civil War in Liberia, and he, along with his mother and brothers, one of them, Ola, is also a professional footballer, battled to find food on a daily basis. They were that poor. After fleeing Liberia, the family arrived in the Netherlands, where they spent years in Rotterdam refugee camp before being accepted as citizens. After this, the young player continued to impress football officials with his skills and was eventually signed. This changed him and his family's life, doing a full 180. And now we have Roberto Carlos. Carlos came from a low-income family. Carlos began working at the age of 12 because his family was experiencing financial difficulties. The footballer worked in a factory and played football with his coworkers at the same time. The city club scouts observed him at one of the games and invited him to watch. Roberto took advantage of his opportunity and went on to become an international football hero. Carlos might have stayed a factory worker if it hadn't been for football. Next, brothers Yaya and Kolo. If football was a lifeline for South Americans in the 1990s, it was a lifeline for Africans in the 2000s. Almost every African footballer grew up in a challenging environment. The Tour brothers were from an impoverished household with a large number of children. They didn't have any football footwear and had to play barefoot. Kolo and Yaya spent the entire day on the football field and were eventually able to achieve their dream of becoming professional football players. They had a rough road ahead of them, but they persevered and realized their ambition. And now, both brothers make a sizable income, something they probably couldn't have imagined in their wildest dreams. And then we have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a Swedish striker who currently plays for Serie A club AC Milan. Ibrahimovic grew up in Malmö's Rosengård area, which is better known for consuming young people than producing outstanding footballers. Because Zlatan's father was an alcoholic, his parents divorced when he was just 2 years old. Ibrahimovic was left to scavenge for what he needed. He honed his technical skills by playing street ball with his friends. Because of Zlatan's unique personality, the school recruited a special instructor to work with him, but the added humiliation was too much for him to handle. The poverty paired with the humiliation from school was a lot for young Zlatan, but luckily he had talents elsewhere and was eventually recruited to play professional soccer, which ultimately changed his entire life. Up next, Luka Modric. Luka Modric's pain in his early years, spent in a conflict zone, is difficult to understand just by glancing at the often smiling Real Madrid midfielder. When the Croatian War of Independence independence happened back in 1991, Modric was just 5 years old, and his grandfather was tragically assassinated as a result of the violence just months later. With his hamlet occupied, he and his family were forced to live in an informal refugee camp at a hotel, spending the time kicking a football around the parking lot. Despite danger looming nearby, during his early days at NK Zadar, the teenage Modric was frequently forced to flee incoming grenades. Modric would eventually rise through the ranks despite facing rejection on multiple occasions and make a name for himself as a professional soccer star. This truly shows that you should never give up, no matter how hard you get beaten down trying. Next up on our list is soccer superstar Lionel Messi. Messi was born in the city of Rosario in the year 1987. He was born in Argentina during a moment of severe economic turmoil and skyrocketing inflation. His potential was discovered in 1995 when Rosario's unemployment rate was around 20%. Because the prospects of success were extremely slim, ambitions and dreams had to be shelved. Messi, on the other hand, defied the odds. Despite the fact that his father worked as a steel mill worker and his mother as a part-time cleaner, he was diagnosed with growth hormone gland illness at the age of 11 and required therapy that cost at least £600 per month. His family, of course, could not afford it. Following that, a number of clubs in Argentina turned down Messi, with just Barca reaching out to assist. He formally joined the Barca club in the end of 2000. After nearly 2 decades, Messi has risen to become one of the world's wealthiest athletes and one of the most well-known professional soccer players worldwide. Now we have Cristiano Ronaldo. At the top of our list is none other than the legend himself, Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best football players in the world today. Ronaldo, like others on this list, had a very tough upbringing. Even before he was born, he was almost abandoned by his mother. The presence of Ronaldo in the world caused the entire family to struggle because feeding 4 mouths is more challenging. During his childhood, Ronaldo was expelled from school for hurling a chair in the face of a teacher who ridiculed him about his poor family condition. It's clear that Ronaldo wanted something more for himself from an early age. Later in life, Real Madrid's future superstar intended to leave school, but Ronaldo's mother was adamant that he continue to pursue his passion for the game, and it was a pivotal decision that would forever alter Ronaldo's career. When he was just 12 years old, he was recruited by the Botin Listpont club. Cristiano Ronaldo was a member of the U16, U17, and U18 B teams before being promoted to the main team for only 1 season in 2001-2 before joining Manchester United in the summer of 2003. Pretty soon after, CR7 became a football legend and still is one of the biggest names in the game today, and certainly one of the wealthiest. Now we thought it was only right to mention a few more names in this list, as there are so many famous soccer players who've risen from nothing and made huge names for themselves in the sport. Here are a few honorable mentions. First is Bibi. The first honorable mention is soccer star Bibi, who went on from living on the streets of Portugal to signing for Manchester United for $7 million in an astonishing story of rags to riches. The now 26-year-old striker has had a difficult time breaking into the big leagues, but his meteoric journey to fame is nothing short of remarkable. Bibi was abandoned by his parents when he was a child and placed in the care of a church outside of Lisbon before being forced to live on the streets. Bibi got his break after being seen playing amateur football. He was almost selected for the national homeless team. Next, Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez was born into a large family with financial difficulties. Luis' father abandoned the family when he was just 12 years old, leaving his mother with 7 children. Suarez's mother was a maid who made very little money. Due to a lack of funds, Suarez frequently played barefoot, as he didn't have money for the boots. However, Suarez did not give up and went on to become a professional player. Luis is now Uruguay's all-time leading scorer, having won the Golden Boot twice. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.